I'm going to try to keep this video short. This is going to be in response to another video I made on the John Deere models that will not start. They crank but won't start because of the electronic control module. I got some comments on that previous video about the issues with this mower being more sometimes than the electronic control module, and I'll show you what the differences are on how to diagnose them so you're not just throwing parts at them. If this sounds like a problem you've been having, welcome to the Bald Eagle 242 YouTube channel. If you've not seen that other video, that's okay. It'll be better to watch this one first because I'm going to show you some cheaper options and things that can be wrong with this. I'm also going to tell you right up front, I do have another hood repair video coming out. I will be repairing this where this is broke off right here. This is not something that'll be able to be fixed with staples like I did in the previous video, but I'll show you how to do that with another product. I'm also going to make another seat video to show you how to repair these seats with something. Last time I used the Plastidip, that video is almost to 1 million views. I know if you've got a John Deere mower, you've got rips and tears in your seat. So if that's something you want to see, a very permanent repair on that, stick around and I'll have another video coming out on that in the future. I did purchase this mower non-running. I did crank it over just by jumping the starter out there with the solenoid, but did not get it to fire. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and set the parking brake. This will allow us to crank it without being on the seat. In the previous video where I showed you the electronic control module, the main difference is when you turn the key, it'll crank. And now I will say you got to make sure you have a good battery. I know this is a good battery. So we got the brake set, blades are not engaged. That should crank. Another thing to look for when you turn the key on, in that condition, even with it not running, our hour meter should display voltage in the hours, and that's not displaying. So that's your first symptom here. So we'll turn the key back off. At this point, there are some safety switches that can cause this, but if it's a safety switch issue, you will see a display on your voltage and hour meter. So keep that in mind when you're troubleshooting this. So this is not a safety switch issue. So you don't have to take the hood off, but I take it off because these things are so fragile. I don't want to take a chance on it slamming down and breaking it. You got to treat these darn hoods like eggshells. I've got another video right up here, a little short I made when I was pressure washing and actually broke one of these hoods myself. So the first thing after you check your battery, make sure you've got a good battery, and I do know that's a good battery. You've got 3 fuses right here, 7.5 in the bottom, 20 in the middle one. There's actually a blank fuse holder right here that's not used on the 304 mower, and then the 15 amp fuse on the top. The 20 amp fuse is your main fuse. The 15 amp fuse is generally your accessory fuse. The 7.5 amp fuse is generally the fuse that's for your instrument cluster or small auxiliary circuits. So check these first, and you can just pull these out. You can tell if that's blown because the wire or the little piece of metal in the middle there will be burned in 2 or separated. That was the one I expected to be blown, and it's not. That's a good fuse. This is a 20 amp fuse, the main fuse. And that one also appears to be good. And the top fuse here, you can see that one right there on that top right hand side of that little loop that goes through the middle of it. That fuse is blown, if I can get that to focus there. So I'll go ahead and replace this one with a new one and see if we get our meter and everything back. I'd be surprised if it does. I don't think that has anything to do with it. All right, so I got a new fuse here, same amperage, 15 amps. If there's something shorted out bad, it may blow when we stick it in, but it is not. I really didn't think there was actually a blown fuse there, but there was definitely a blown fuse. So what we're going to do after we confirm all that is come back up here. We're going to turn our key back to the on position. I still have no hour meter here, and I still have a no start condition. Brake is set, so it should crank right now if I'm trying to turn that key. So I'll turn that key back off. That is more than likely not that electronic control module that I show in that other video. And like I said, if you need that issue, you can see that after this video. But again, the symptoms are different. We have no electrical components showing up on the dash. We don't get the crank. So if it's the electronic control module, you will get an hour meter. You will get the engine to crank. You will not hear the solenoid click. And that's something else I'll point out here. If you turn this key on and off, which I'm doing now, there should be an audible click that you'll hear on the bottom of the carburetor. That's your fuel solenoid shutting on and off. I'm not hearing that at all. What I'm going to do is pull this key switch out, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be our issue. There is something else I want to show you here when we change this key switch out, because there are 2 different styles of key switches. Let's pull this out of here and see what we got. Right. First thing you want to do is just come right underneath the key switch here in this wiring harness. Try to pull that out of the way. This should just pull right off. Yeah, that just pulls right off of there. And now you can see here on this particular mower, it has these two little ears on it. Turn it over there, we'll call them rabbit ears or mouse ears or whatever. If you have a 7-blade switch, it will have these two little ears on it, this one and this one here. If you only have a 5-blade switch, it will not have these little ears on the top. It will only have these plugs in the center. So we definitely have a 7-way switch, and that's something critical to know when you order your switch. I don't know how well I'll be able to show you here, but when I get it out, I'll show you. There's two little ears on it you have to squeeze together. One's at about the 7 o'clock position, and one's at about the, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock position. Not gonna be real easy to show you this up in here, but I'm gonna push those little tabs down, and you can just use your finger to get these out of here. And once you get those tabs loose, you can just pull this whole switch out. I have to hold that camera there and show you that, but you've just got to get that tab pushed in far enough where it'll clear that part on the dash, and then that will come right out. And then just like the plug there, you've got an ear here and an ear here. So this is a 7-plug switch. 5 plugs will only have these plugs in the center. I do have both switches here. I've got the 7 and the 5, and I didn't think about this when I was pulling it out here, but I'll show you what the difference is. This is the switch that came out of the mower, and the 7-pin has a position for your headlights. When you're working with a 5-pin switch, it does not have that position to run your headlights. So I assume with this switch, the headlights just stay on when the mower's on. On the 7-pin switch, it does have the position for the headlights. That's the main difference between the 5-pin and the 7-pin. I'll put links to these switches down below, 5-pin and the 7-pin. Just make sure that you check this switch out. It's pretty easy to get it out of there before you order parts. These switches are not that expensive. They're actually a lot less expensive than having to replace that electronic control module. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in there. Hopefully this will take care of our problem. And you can test this before you put it in the dash. Just go ahead and plug it in here. We got a good fuse in there now. When we turn this on now, our hour meter should work. Hour meter is now on. 337.5 hours. Honestly, I had no idea how many hours were on this tractor until just right now. Relatively low hours for a 2009. All right, we'll go ahead and turn this off. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it and put it in the dash. When you put this in, there's 2 little notches. So just make sure when you put this in, it's right side up. And that just pushes right down in there. That simple. And then plug your wire back in underneath. All right, go ahead and give this thing a little bit of choke here. Hit our key here and see what happens. All right, and just like that, for a less than $15 part, we just got a mower running that did not run when it came into the shop. Now, what I will add though, let's say you get this key in and now your mower cranks, but it will not start, which is common, especially if you had a bad battery and somebody has tried to jump start this mower. If they're using a jump pack, they put out a very high spike of power that bypasses straight from the battery up to this electronic control module. And I'll put a link to the other video up here that tells you how to change that. But the symptoms of that are you have a key that cranks, your hour meter will show up, your engine will crank, but you will have no fire. You will not get this engine started. It'll just crank and crank forever. It'll never fire. So that's the difference between the key switch going bad and the electronic control module under the dash going bad. I've got another video coming out with a completely different technique on how to fix this hood, and I've got a really different, unique technique on how to fix this seat. It's a technique I have not seen anybody else on YouTube do that I think you'll find very interesting. Good solution if you've got a seat that looks like that or even worse. If you found this video interesting, I think you'll find this one up here to be just as interesting. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time.